fill up, and I see people connecting to audio, so we are right at 5:30. I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Elizabeth Salata. I am an admissions specialist, and I work with our newly opening schools, so schools that we are going to be opening in the next several months, and I just do a lot of community building, working with those families and those new leaders as we're getting ready to open our new schools. I also like to do a lot of events, and so we've started to do a network-wide event every other month. Maybe some of you joined us in December when we did the Wonder of Winter Weather, and we did a virtual sing-along with families and children. This month, we decided to go with a parent education event, and our April event will also be a parent education event on Montessori 101. And so lots of opportunities to really reach out there and help you get to know Guidepost. Today, our event is on the toileting experience. Like my friend Bernice just said, we're going to make toileting fun again. And so tonight it is on toileting independence, Montessori approach. And we are joined by someone from our programs department, Bernice, and I'm going to let her introduce herself, but we're so excited to host this event for all of our parents. So just a couple of ground rules to lay. You can see we have a lot of folks with us here tonight, and we're so excited for that. I'm going to be working to be in the chat if there are questions, but we would really love it if you kept your questions till the end, and we'll get through as many as we can. We're also going to share the resources, and we also will be recording tonight, so we can send out the recording to families as well. So lots of opportunities to get the information. Yes, we are absolutely recording, and we can send that out to all of you. So we're very excited that you're here with us, and we will go ahead and turn it over to Bernice.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Hello, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon. Hello. I was telling Elizabeth, I'm so excited to be around so many people. It's been so long since I've been around 200 plus people. So thank you all for. I can imagine that toileting is a hot topic in everybody's life right now. Perhaps you have a child between the ages of 0 to 3, maybe a bit older, and this is what you are living and dreaming and eating about and thinking everything about toileting. And a quick introduction, as you know now, my name is Bernice. I am originally a 0 to 3 Montessori educator, so I have lived and breathed the whole toileting everything in our infant and toddler environments. Currently, I work with Guidepost on our programs and training team. So I help to train a lot of our guides, help to set up programs at our different campuses. I see lots of familiar faces here, which is super exciting. So yeah, I told Elizabeth, I want to make toileting fun again. I want this to be, I fully recognize that it does, of course, come with its challenges. There's a lot of big emotions in our little humans right now, right? Things that they're experiencing. And sometimes the toilet can be a trigger, a catalyst, I think, for those big emotions. And we can't help but feel that as well, right? And there's a lot of extra stress, I think, even more so now in the way that life is, and it can kind of build up. So here for this to be a fun experience for all of us tonight. So please feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question. Like Elizabeth said, we will have time for questions later. I just definitely want to hear from y'all, and I'll have time throughout the presentation too, where we can hear from each other. But I know that if you have a question, someone else on this call, especially because there's almost 300 people here, probably has the same question. So don't feel shy, feel comfortable to ask that question. We're all going to learn from each other. While I'm sharing the screen, I cannot see the chat. So if you have a particular question about like that specific slide or something like that, you can just hold it maybe to the end since I won't see the chat. But if it's anything else, of course, write reactions, have reactions, and connect with other people here in the gathering. I think this is part of the fun, is connecting with more communities. So let's see, who here has started the transition to underwear? I guess with a show of thumbs, and you can use the Zoom reaction too. Okay, I see a couple of thumbs. All right, a couple of thumbs. I see fewer thumbs. Who here is thinking about the transition to underwear? I see more thumbs. Okay, so a lot of us are here thinking about what are we doing, right? What are we getting ready to start? And then who here is nervous about the transition or is currently in the transition and nervous? Yeah, okay. I think it's also important for us to recognize. Yeah, I see lots of hand emotions. Yes, thank you guys. Totally, it's a valid feeling, right? This is a big time in a child's life, and something that is, we think of toileting so much as just part of the curriculum. So if you end up going to later on or wherever a Montessori environment, you'll see that, especially in the 0 to 3 classrooms, toileting is part of the curriculum. So this is something that holds a lot of importance. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. We'll get to the good stuff and we'll start our discussion. So let's see, Elizabeth, if you can share my screen, will you just give me a confirmation thumbs up? Yes. All right. So we are here. We know that some people here, and I see some of your children joining us, which is lovely. Some that look a bit younger, still in diapers. Some of you that said you're already in the underwear transition, and some that are just thinking about what we're doing. And I think either way, you're in the right place. We're going to be talking about all the steps in the journey and things that, regardless of where you are in the process, you can get off the call today and have something to start implementing at home. As a 0 to 3 Montessori educator and having kind of helped children and their families along the toileting journey in their child's life for many years and many, many children, it's something that sounds weird to say, but something that I think that I enjoy, because it is really, really powerful to see what a young child is capable of. The level of independence that they gain from being able to use the toilet independently, to be aware of their body, the fine motor and gross motor skills that go into pushing down and up, pulling up their pants independently, sitting down, and et cetera, et cetera. So what I love so much about this topic that we're here to discuss tonight is that it is combining everything. Right? And I think that that's really why this is part of our curriculum. This is part of the Montessori curriculum for our children between the ages of 0 to 3 years. And if I ever say a number in any presentation you ever hear me do, please know that it's plus or minus a little bit, right? Because every child is different. So around this age, we are combining everything together that in the process of toilet learning, right? We think about this as a child's on their path to independence. And to gain that level of independence, they have stronger fine motor and gross motor skills. They're self-aware in their body control and language, right? And that leads us to kind of where we are as adults as these independent humans. You might think that this is, I know for a lot of people, it's new to hear toilet awareness or toilet learning rather than potty training or toilet training or whatever it is. I think traditionally we definitely think of training when we think about this, but part of what we're thinking about in our Montessori environments and what we do in the classroom that we can translate into your home environments is almost ridding ourselves of the notion of training, right? Training to me is something that I'm training you out of doing something and training you to do something new now. And we want this to be this process where it starts from birth. You are learning something. It's in a way thinking about something like natural acquisition. Right? It's something that's naturally acquired, similar to how, for typically developing child, right? We learn to sit independently and then we crawl and then we pull up to stand and we walk independently, right? It's something that we naturally acquire, and everything from birth, even within utero, is bringing us to this point of being able to walk independently. And this is where I think if we can change our mindset and think about toileting as this learning and this awareness, something that's naturally acquired, just as walking or crawling is, and so on and so forth. When I think about the toileting process, I'm also thinking about the entire process, right? For me, it's so much more, and in our Montessori environments, than just the act of sitting on the toilet and releasing, right? And urinating or having a bowel movement. It's everything. It's the before, it's the after, it's the entire thing. So when we think about the toileting process, I think it's very important to also remember that we're talking about undressing and dressing independently, sitting and standing independently, and washing our hands independently. Whenever I mention anything to do with let's go use the toilet or let's go to the bathroom, it's always going to include and wash our hands, right? And I think, especially right now, what better time to include more washing of hands in our lives? And so we are going to talk through kind of these different processes and how we include it. But I want kind of changing our notion from training to this naturally acquired awareness and learning process that is a process of many steps. For me, having been in the classroom, this was also really helpful when thinking about children finding success in the process, right? So if I had a child in my environment, and perhaps this is happening with your own child at home right now, or maybe not, and something you're thinking about, but it will help you when you do get to that point, that, man, we didn't get any successful kind of tries in the toilet that day. But what we did find a lot of success with that day was that that was the first day that that child pulled up their pants independently, or that they went to the sink independently after they sat on the toilet to wash their hands. And when I think about that entire process, you find those moments of success and growth in that individual child and your own child, that one will help you, right, in those days that are super hard and keep you going, and two, recognize that transition in your own child reaching that point of independence. So like I mentioned, I always like to share this question. I think it's almost like a trick question. And of course, you now know because I kind of said it, but when do we start the toileting process, right? When do we think about toilet awareness starting? From birth, right? It is from birth, because it's something that we don't often think about. Oh, even, my youngest of infant is thinking about, is maybe in that toileting process, right? And they might not be consciously aware of what's happening right now, but what we can do as the adults in the environment is that we are setting up the environment, and even throughout things such as diaper changes, we're setting in stone, like setting those stones to reach that place of independence. Just like I gave that example of learning to sit independently and then crawl, pull up to stand, and then we walk, we think about all the little steps that happen kind of from birth. So we think about diapering an infant, right? And a big part to me of this process that starts from birth is the incorporation of language. Right? Language. So your child at this point, if they're younger, wherever they are in their development, they might not be speaking yet. Right? And that's okay. That's part of the development. But what we can be doing, because we know that they are in a period of absorption, and Montessori, Dr. Montessori refers to the child's mind at this time in their development as being what she calls an absorbent mind. They're taking in everything in their environment. It's helping them to adapt. And part of the role that we can play as the adults in their environment and helping them to adapt is to give them the language to understand what is happening. So we can include the child in the entire process through language, even when they are very, very, very young, right? And they are understanding, as they're having this receptive language and this comprehension, they're learning the language and the awareness for what is happening to them. So I would recommend that you try to be as descriptive as possible. Right, I'm going to pick up your leg. I'm going to slide this diaper under. I'm going to take the wipe. It might be cold. I'm going to wipe you, etc. Everything that you're doing. I would also recommend using accurate language for the body parts. A couple of reasons, and this is something that is often, I will admit, this is new sometimes for some people, right? I know how I grew up, lovely family, of course, but we never used the accurate language for our body parts. That was something that was uncomfortable for my family, right? And I think about now understanding the development of language and what that can do for a young child, and the independence that it gives them to be able to then speak about their own body and be aware of the different parts and have that level of independence. So we are thinking about the language that we are talking through when we're changing a diaper, even from birth, because we recognize this as part of the toileting process. So you want to draw your child's attention to what's happening, right? You have urine, you have pee in your diaper. I'm going to put you on the table. Your diaper is full, right? You're giving that descriptive language, and you're giving the facts and the language to go along with it. Now, let's see, a show of hands here. You can use your Zoom emoji or whichever you'd like. Who knows a little bit about stand-up diapering? Who, if you've started it, if you've read about it, yeah, let's see. Okay, lovely. A big group here of people that have maybe been introduced to the process of stand-up diapering. Now, let's see, another show of hands. Who is intimidated by stand-up diapering? This is often something that's like, I've read about it. Yeah, okay, I appreciate the honesty. Yeah, I read about it. I think frequent questions that kind of come up are, how do I change a bowel movement with a stand-up diaper? How do we do this, right? What are we doing? And I think those are very, very valid questions. So I would recommend, we like stand-up diapering for many reasons. The first is that we give this level of independence to a child to be a part of the process in stand-up diapering, because they're standing up, their pants are down. It makes sense to then sit on the potty, right? Your pants are down, you can sit on the toilet. Part of what you might find too, and many of you are probably experiencing this now, as child grows and is making more of those reflexes into coordinated movements, they're wiggly on the changing table, right? They don't want to be confined to the changing table. They want to be touching things. They want to be moving, and it can end up being quite challenging actually to change your child's diaper on the changing table. So I would recommend that as soon as your child begins to stand confidently or pull up to stand, that you move to stand-up diapering. Now, this will look different in everybody's home, so I encourage you to do it where, how, whatever works best for your family. A couple of things that I like to recommend for stand-up diapering. One, that your child has something to hold on to and faces away from you. So depending on what you have, maybe they do just hold on to your leg if that's what you have, or maybe it is, and something where of course you feel like it's safe, right? And if they're not going to wobble and bump themselves, and that will depend on your own environment. Some people have a bar, some people just use like the side of a little table that they have. I've even seen some families just use the rim of the bathtub, right? And child holds onto it and then their potty is right there. I would recommend just a quick tip that your child faces away from you. And then you might be wondering, man, I only have two hands. How do I hold the diaper and do the straps, right? And so for that, I like to recommend that the back of your leg, so maybe you're sitting down similar to how this adult is in the photo, and the back of your leg can kind of prop the back of the fresh diaper up, and you can pull the two straps in the front. People will often ask, how do I clean the bowel movement, right? When there's a stand-up diaper change. And so what I would recommend, there's two kind of tricks. The first is that I actually find it quite much easier to change a bowel movement in a stand-up diaper change rather than the child that's super wiggly on the table. It ends up getting very messy. And so I might just say, like, I'm gonna lift this leg and wipe underneath this leg. And then I lift the leg and I wipe. I'm gonna wipe under this leg, then I lift this leg and wipe. And it's also helpful if once your child stands independently, that you might ask them to put their two hands on the floor in front of them, and they do almost like a downward dog shape. You might already see your child enjoy getting into this position just on the carpet or the rug. And that way you can see everything and you can wipe and clean successfully, and then child is part of the process. What's really nice too with the stand-up diaper changes is that there's so many moments for being part of the process that we talked about, that dressing and undressing. Now we have your child is standing, their hands are free, and they're standing independently. They can help push down and pull up their pants independently. So you can see by transitioning already, even if you're not going to underwear right now and just staying in the diaper, how even just transitioning to a stand-up diaper change can help you in that process to toilet independence. So I would say for those of you who are like, where do we start? What are we doing? I would say your first thing, start with a stand-up diaper change. Start doing that. I would also recommend that you find a location in your home that is and maybe it's a couple of locations depending on how your home is set up. We all live in different situations, whatever it is, that is the set area for this diaper change, for toileting. We know children, and I think all humans, at least me and many other humans that I know, we have these strong sense of order, right? And our children have a super strong sense of order as well. It's helping them to understand their world. They predict what comes next. They know where things are. So if that toileting area is always in the same area in your home, or always in the same spot, and we get into this routine of we always change your diaper and wash our hands after breakfast. Now that's your routine. The child knows where you're always going to do that. Children want to be independent, and they get to that point themselves, and they go to that toileting area themselves. So I would start thinking about, hey, where's going to be the spot in our home where we'll set this up, right? Or maybe the two spots, and that's totally fine too. Now you've moved to stand-up diaper changes, and you're wondering, okay, what's next? I think in the process, right? Something that's really special, I think about in our Montessori classrooms that we can mirror in the home environment as well, is getting on some kind of a schedule, some kind of a routine, right? We know that children thrive with routine and consistency. When things feel like naturally part of the routine, we call it the intangible environment in a way. We have our tangible aspects of the environment, which are the materials and the things that we're touching and the things that we're working with our hands. And then we have the intangible, which are many things, including that routine, that schedule, that flow of the day. So I would recommend thinking about, even now, before you transition to underwear, getting into some kind of pattern of, we always sit on the toilet and wash our hands at these times during the day. By this, it's going to feel like it's just naturally part of the day. And of course, there will be times where they're going to butt heads, but having it as many times as possible, kind of feel natural during the day, will make that transition a bit easier when you eventually transition to underwear. So I would recommend definitely making it in your day at least every 2 hours. And of course, changing your child's diaper as soon as it's full, as soon as you can, right? Depending on our crazy schedules, because we're building that correlation of, there's something that you've done in your diaper, right? You've urinated or you've had a bowel movement, and we change. Right? And we go and we do this in the bathroom. It's also helpful to set up those times, I think, moments of transition, right? As adults, these are mostly times during the day when I use the bathroom as well. So we're just setting this up naturally, right? We use the bathroom when we wake up in the morning. We tend to use the bathroom before we go outside, when we come back from things. And so we can get in that process of using this kind of simple language where it feels natural. So I would encourage you, this will look different in your home, right? Based on what your family's unique schedule is. But thinking of a time, like, what are the periods in your family's day, and when can we naturally incorporate these times for sitting on the toilet and washing our hands? Even if your child's diaper is dry, I encourage you to always make it a point to use the bathroom at that time of the day.
Hey, Bernice, I'm going to just really quickly stop you, because we had a couple of great questions in the chat that may come up later, but just they're relevant here. The first one was stand-up diapering and cloth diapers, and how, if you have any recommendations there. And then the second one was, do you have them sit on the toilet with a diaper on to start, or always diaper off? And so
that's a great question.
Cover those really quick, that'd be great.
The first is that I say I love cloth diapers for all of the reasons that if you use cloth diapers, you know why we love cloth diapers, right? Child can feel, what does it feel like to have a full diaper? I often think that the diaper industry has done such a good job, right? Where they're so absorbent that child has never felt in their entire life, what does it feel like to pee, right? When we say pee in the toilet, and child for the first 18 months, 2 years of their life doesn't know what pee is, right? Because they've never felt it. And we know that children learn through their senses. So the cloth diaper does allow us to have that. There are lots of different types of cloth diapers. They do tend to be a bit more challenging for stand-up diapering. So I would just encourage you to be creative with whatever you have. At that point too, I might even, if you feel like your child is ready, think about moving. I'm going to show you all a clip later on that comes to an underwear. I might already make the switch to like another underwear if you're going to start that. But I do encourage you to be creative with whatever that is for the cloth diapering. And I think there's different kinds that are a bit easier or harder than others. For the diaper, I would recommend that the diaper be off to sit on the toilet, right? Because we want to kind of show kind of the reality, right? As much as possible. If child goes to it and sits and they're wearing their diaper, I might say, oh, you're sitting on the toilet. We sit on the toilet without our pants on. Let me help you take your diaper off, or something like that. So we're making that connection of, I sit on the toilet to release, right? And my bum is always bare or, naked when I sit on the toilet. But it is something where I wouldn't say like, you're sitting on the toilet wrong. We never do that, because right away, I might've cut the child's desire and independence to want to go sit on the toilet independently. But here I'm just noticing, I'm capitalizing almost on something that they're showing me they're interested in, right? You're interested in the toilet. Let me show you how we sit on the toilet. We sit without our diaper on, and we can do it in that. And then, yes, we're going to talk about the environment. So I'm going to definitely hold off on the environment for the sizes of the toilet, but I will delve into that in more detail. So not to fear, and we'll have time for question and answer. I know we all have good questions. So yes, let's jump back in, and then we have a whole slide about the environment, and I will make sure to talk a bit about the size of the toilet and what to recommend, because we're all doing different things, and that's great. And most importantly, we want it to be so that child can access the toilet independently. So people will often ask, what are the signs of toilet readiness, right? How do I know that my child is ready to use the bathroom? I think the first thing is that you are excited too, right? That you're ready for this. I think that we want to make sure that we're ready. And I think everybody here is somewhat ready in a way. We're all in different levels of our journey by just being here and wanting to learn about it. So I think that that's really, like, you are excited by being here. Your child is showing some kind of an interest in the toilet, right? They're perhaps sitting on it, perhaps understanding kind of what it is for its intended purpose. I think the best example would be that child picks up the potty and wears it as a hat, right? That almost shows me they're not necessarily understanding what is it used for its intended purpose. And then some examples that you might see, right? So you might see, first, your child rips their diaper off. They take it off when it's full, right? To me, that is a sign like this is a child that is understanding, I have done something and I need it to be off, right? It's a change thing. So that is a sign. You might even have a child that tells you, right? Poo, pee. That's a sign of readiness too. If they're expressing to you that they've gone in their diaper, they're ready. You might also see some children or your own child maybe have a bowel movement like behind a shelf or go behind a door or crouch down behind a table, something like that. I think of that also as a sign of readiness, right? Because they are aware that something is happening, right? And I'm going into this space to do this. So it's kind of fun to have those be aware of what those signs of readiness are in a way, and then be able to observe, take that back and observe your own child. We often see things that we weren't seeing previously and we're like, oh my gosh, they're ready. You might also see them being dry for longer periods of time, or they wake up from nap dry, right? Those are signs like, okay, they're ready for this, right? And then also that you're ready because, but I do think everybody here is ready to some degree because you're here learning and you're excited, which is lovely. So we have a couple of slides on preparing the environment. I like to start with clothing for independence. Actually, in Montessori, clothing for independence is something that we're always thinking about, whether it's child in their toileting journey, whether they're beginning to crawl, wherever they are, we're always thinking about, does the clothing allow for freedom of movement, for independence? So you can think about just a quick example for crawling. Every child crawls around their specific time. And remember, I said about ages, plus or minus is blurry. But let's say around 6 to 9-ish months, child is learning to crawl independently. That is a time that I would highly recommend a onesie, right? Because clothing is not going to bunch. It's not going to serve almost like a roadblock. Like if they have a shirt or a pair of jeans, it's going to be too heavy to practice moving independently. Once child starts to stand independently, I would highly recommend no more onesies, right? Because they're going to be dependent on you to undo them and be part of the process. But maybe something super simple like a pants with an elastic band. And this kind of underwear is really lovely to start with. You can get like plain white if that's what you're interested in. Well, it's Gerber on Amazon. You can get a 3-pack. It's cotton. Child can feel, right, when they release. They'll still have urine and everything go down their body and their leg, but it's slightly thicker, so it's not going to go everywhere in your home. And I say that because every child that releases differently. It could be a large one and it might go everywhere. And I don't want you to be mad at me, but I do find this is the underwear that we definitely recommend to our families to start with. Also, the elastic waistband is great to allow the child with their hands right where they are with their dexterity right now to grasp it independently. And I would recommend showing to your child modeling with 1 thumb on the inside of the waistband and 4 on the outside. That's what would be my recommendation. Now, I think about toileting for independent, there's nothing for independence. There's nothing more sad than your child telling you that they have to use the bathroom, getting to the toilet independently, and then not being able to undo the overall or whatever it is, and then releasing on themselves and having a breakdown because they failed. And at that sense, they themselves didn't fail. It was like the clothing was that roadblock. So I think, of course, wear whatever clothes you want, but in this toileting process, as much as possible, kind of be aware of, is this setting my child up for success right now? Even if something like, shirts that are often too big, we want child to, they're interested, they're looking down, right? They're interested when they see themselves releasing. And sometimes when the shirt's too big, they can't see, or the urine goes on their shirt and then they have to change their shirt and then they're upset and it makes the toileting process kind of, we're butting heads again. Sometimes with dresses, right? They get stuck in the back of the toilet and it's too much coordinated movements at that time to be thinking about releasing in the toilet, picking up my dress and doing everything at the same time. So just really thinking about the environment, think about that clothing. Same with shoes, right? You might be changing clothes, right? Remember, undressing and dressing is part of the process of toilet learning. You might be changing clothes more often at this time, and having, shoes with the big laces and all of that is not going to set your child up for independence at this time. So as much, make it easy for yourself, set your child up for success as well, thinking about their clothing. We're talking about the environment as well. So I definitely recommend, and this is going to look different in everyone's home, so you can be creative with how you have it, but definitely recommend some kind of stool or something for you to sit on. That could even just be the toilet and you sit on. I think save your back, and it'll also help you be at the child's eye level. Right. And also it'll give you that knee prop for the diaper change if you are doing that independent stand-up diaper change. I like to have some place where a child can access their change of clothes and or fresh diapers independently, right? We know that children want, if you have a young child right now, you know that they want to do things, right? It's a lot of do it by myself, me right now, right? And so we can include them in the process, giving them tasks where they can divert that energy towards where you can go and get a fresh diaper. You can get the wipes. That's very exciting for a young child to have that sense of responsibility. It will also help to even get them into the bathroom area independently, right? I like having a mirror too. And you can repurpose a mirror if you previously had a mirror that was maybe when your child was spending a lot of time in tummy time and it was like maybe running horizontally across their play mat or their workspace, and maybe now just flip it vertically and move it in the area where y'all are doing diaper changes and repurpose. They can see their body. We're helping to support that awareness. In terms of the toilet, and I saw this question come up, every family is going to have a different thing in different situations. So what I want you to kind of think about is, can my child, where they are in their development right now, reach this independently? Are they set up for success? I would say that the majority of children in the beginning of their toileting journey find more success with a small kind of potty. You can find these ones on Amazon for not too expensive, $15. And I say that because it takes a lot of coordination to stand, turn, get my pants down all at the same time and sit on this, right? Even if there's bars. Now, that being said, plenty of children have found a lot of success doing that. So do what works best for your family, but think about, can they find success and do this independently? Or are they always dependent on you, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, whomever, come in and prop me on the toilet? And if that's the case, what is that small change that you can make in the environment where they're no longer dependent on you for that? I also like to have some kind of chair, bench, whatever it is, for a child to sit on to help change their clothes before or after, right? We know that a part of the process is that undressing and dressing, and being able to sit on a chair allows child, I find it, and I'll do a quick explanation of it when you're showing your child how to how to put on underwear independently, how to pull on their pants independently, to start seated, right? So child is sitting down there, let's do underwear, and it's gonna be the same process for pants. They can see the holes, right? And they're much more aware of which leg, like this leg and this hole, this leg and this hole. You might be sitting near them, you're collaborating in the beginning. Slowly they build up that ability. As they're sitting, invite them to pull the underwear or pants up to about their knee level. And at that point, have them stand and continue to pull them all the way up. So you can see how having that place to sit is quite helpful for that balancing, because a lot of children at this time, when they're starting the toilet learning journey, are still wobbly on their feet. So if we ask them to be standing and put their pants on and do that, we get a lot of tumbles. And it ends up actually being us that does most of it, and child just kind of is hanging on us, right? And so this sets them up for success to be able to do it independently. So I would definitely recommend something, whatever it is in your home, we're all in different homes, where they can be sitting independently near that toileting area to change their clothes. And then for the sink, right? So we know that hand washing is part of the toileting journey, part of the process. A lot of times our sinks, I like to show this because a lot of times our sinks are too far and we find ourselves having to prop child up, right? And we're changing our mentality with everything we're doing, whether we're with toileting or anything else, into how can I remove my role that I'm playing with this and set child up to do it themselves independently. On Amazon, you can find a faucet extender. It's like $5 to $10. I would get them for every sink you have in the home that your child has been asking you almost to prop them up for. And it brings the water closer to them, right? Fewer times that they have to be hunched over to reach it. A stool can be helpful in the bathroom area to reach the sink, wherever that is, wherever you guys are washing hands. But think about how can they have access to, how can they wash their hands independently where they're not dependent on me? This is part of the process. Okay. Our child is ready. We're doing this. Our environment is ready. Everything is ready. How do I get my child into the bathroom, right? This is often like, okay, and this comes up with everything, right? Whether it's I set up this beautiful shelf, I have all these materials and activities out. How do I get child to use it, right? This is a common thing. So there's a couple of kind of like tips and tricks that I find can be quite helpful that we would definitely be doing in the classroom that you can also be doing at home. We talked a lot about taking that routine, right? Establishing that schedule and routine. I would recommend doing that now as quickly, as soon as you can, and taking advantage of it, right? Because that almost sets the boundary. It's that we always use the bathroom before we go outside, right? And I will say it is 75% foolproof, right? I want everybody to know some days are harder than others, of course, but I would say that your chances of success to get child into the bathroom independently go up dramatically when there's that routine, because it's not, you need to go use the toilet right now. I don't like when someone talks to me like that, right? What do you mean I need to use this right now? But when someone says like, I know that I always eat lunch after my lunch break at this time in the day, and my sequence of events, right? Think of that day almost as like a sequence of patterns of events, then it feels more natural to me. So take advantage of your routine. The next that I like to offer is 2 options. So by doing this, one, I would stay away from yes or no questions, right? Because if we ask a yes or no question, what is your child going to most probably say? Yeah. See lots of shaking heads. They're saying no, right? Do you want to use the toilet? No. Do you want to change your diaper? No. Do you want to eat snack? No. And then sometimes they do still do it. And we're like, what? You said no. What's happening, right? And there's a big psychological development that's going on. It often coincides with language development, and you will get a lot of no at this time. Child is exerting themselves. So we can avoid those yes or no questions by also offering 2 options, right? So you can hold my hand or you can hold brother's hand to walk to the toilet. We can hop or we can skip. You can get your wipes or you can get the diaper first. Which do you choose? Now, again, not 100% foolproof, but I will say it really helps. Child gets to make an independent decision, and they're doing that. So we're supporting their independence and they're getting towards that. I would recommend using this trick, the two options, and avoiding yes or no questions for everything. Getting dressed in the morning, right? Not, do you want to get dressed? No, child doesn't want to get dressed, right? But you can pick your blue shorts or you can pick your red shorts. Ooh, I'm so excited. I've been given an opportunity to make an independent choice. You as parent, grandparent, whomever, are just happy that they're wearing the shorts, right? And we're supporting the child in their development. So use that 2-trick option. I think it's very helpful, definitely in the toileting experience as well. And give an example if you have others in the environment, right? It could just be, I see brother, I see sister, I see whomever is sitting on the toilet. Let's walk to the toilet. Oh, I see Elizabeth's walking to the bathroom. Let's go walk to the bathroom too. Whatever it is, take advantage of what's happening in your environment to talk about it, right? Ooh, when I feel that feeling in my bladder, I usually go sit on the toilet. Sometimes you have a child who's like, I feel it too. I need to sit on the toilet, right? So be kind of creative in that invitation. And most importantly, avoid the yes or no questions, because if child says no, and then we still push them to do it, we will get it into a monster breakdown, right? There will most probably be a pretty large breakdown in that point. So those are some tips, some invitation tips. I think you also will know your child best, and you'll figure out what works best for getting them into the bathroom area. I would say that the routine is amazing, and also thinking about what they can do to be part of the process. Is it that your child always has to open the cabinet and get the wipes? Is it that they always have to open the drawer, pick between 2 underwear and bring it to change? Whatever it is, children like to be in control and part of the process. So definitely thinking about what they can do. Thinking about interacting. This is a big thing too, right? Because, oh my gosh, sometimes days are harder than others, right? And we know that. And so I would recommend that we think about you know, for a lot of children, this is perhaps like the most important part of their day sometimes, and sometimes the hardest part of their day. And for us, it can be the hardest part of our days too, right? Where we're like, oh my gosh, this is just feels like it's never ending, whatever it is, right? And so as much as possible, and giving ourselves grace, I think it's very important to give ourselves grace, is to be as calm and unhurried as possible. I fully recognize that that is not always possible in our home environments with our busy schedules and everything that's going on. But I would say as much as possible to try to give the gift of time. And I say that with that little asterisk that I recognize it's not always possible. So as much as you can. Something that I also like to recommend is to try as much as possible to be kind of non-judgmental, right? Because if we almost like stigmatize, look, bowel movement smells, right? Poo smells. We know that, and we all poo, and that's just part of being a human. And so for a lot of children, it becomes this thing like you might see them not, it might feel like, I don't, they're always making this face when I do this. This must be something bad. And it might be like a catalyst for them trying to avoid the toilet later. So as much as possible, we're super neutral. This is a natural thing that every human goes through, right? And you might have the emotions in your head. You might tell your partner or your friend later, whomever, about it. But kind of in that moment with your child, try to be as neutral and non-judgmental as possible. And we talked a lot about that language and the interaction, right? So we want to be collaborative too, right? I'll wipe, you wipe. As much I'm going to pull here, you pull here for pulling up your pants, right? I'll turn the faucet a little, you can finish pulling the rest of the faucet. So we talk a lot about collaboration actually in everything that we do in our Montessori environments, where it's not, I can't just assume that you know how to do something. Right? For many children, this is the first time they've ever been asked to do this. So if you say, put your shoes on or put your underwear on, I don't know what you're talking about, right? So we want to collaborate, be as much as part of the process, a little bit of your turn, my turn, and then slowly wean yourself off of how much you're collaborating as you notice your child finding more independence with that, right? As they're building up the skills to then do it independently. This is an opportunity to form a positive connection, right? In a moment that we often don't think of like a glamorous and kind of positive time in our day, this is a great time where, especially with our young infants too, we're looking at them, right? We're changing their diaper, we're making eye contact. And with our older children, there's so much independence that's happening, right? So this can be a positive experience. So we're using our neutral tone, and I would say as much as possible, try not to be emotionally invested. And again, I think that's really hard because, but I say that giving ourselves grace, right? But just keep it in the back of your mind, keep my voice in the back of your mind during the hard times, because it can feel, right, child sits on the toilet, you've done everything, the environment is set up, they sit, they don't go, they stand, and then they go on the carpet. And it's like, man, I feel grouchy about it, right? And so as much as possible, we recognize that this is a phase that child is working through. This is part of the learning process, and I'm not going to be kind of as emotionally invested. Now, when we think about what the child is learning, I think there's some helpful language. Now, when I give language ideas, I think it's also really important that you sound like yourself, right? It'll be odd if you start talking like me to your own child who's had this relationship with you your entire life. So think about like what the messaging is here in these phrases and adapt it to you and your personal family and the relationship that you have with your child. But thinking about these facts, right? And the connections. I feel something, I'm releasing. Right? I see something, I'm doing something else, right? And we recognize that children are sensorial learners. And so I want to make that connection, right? Your pants are wet, there's pee on your leg, you peed, right? I made that connection. When super simple, it's facts. It's not yet reasoning. It's very, very factual. So these are just a couple of examples. And again, adjust it for you, but what you can kind of, what I like to highlight here is it's just factual. It's just this happened, so this happened, right? You're crouching under the table, you're making that face. You usually make that face when you're having a bowel movement or when you're pooing. Let's go sit on the toilet. So we're giving that descriptive language. I think a lot of that has come up in this presentation is language. So really thinking about what is the language that we're using around the toileting process that child can grasp to then describe it themselves, because then they might tell you, right, as they move along in the process, there's pee, I mean, my leg's wet, I'm peeing. And that is a level of awareness, right? That is a level of awareness in the process of gaining that understanding. And Lastly, there's no need for rewards or punishments. And this we see in Montessori environments and everything, regardless of if it's just the toilet. And I say this because it doesn't create the child's intrinsic desire to do this themselves, to find that level of independence. So I always give the example whenever we're training teachers of, right, if child, look, it's super cool, right? Your child, your grandchild, whomever is a developing human being that does 1,000, a million amazing things every day. Right? I think, show of hands, whose child does 1,000 amazing things every day? Yes. Yeah, right. It's the developing human. It's super cool. And all we want to do when they do it is like have a party, right? Because it's like, oh my gosh, that's so cool, right? Now, what's going to happen is then you'll start to see child might get kind of accustomed to, did you do the party? Did you do the dance? Did you do the clap yet? Or did you say the thing for me? And be doing it more for what that reward is that I'm doing for them, and less of for that because they are capable of it. So I often think, and I'm trying not to go into too much of a tangent with this, but so often there's the big myth that like Montessori hates praise. It hates praise. And I think that's actually super false. I think Montessori is so deep into a deeper level of praise, where it's, I recognize what you did. I recognize the process, your hard work, right? You sat on the toilet. You saw me, you saw my work, right? Child, like we said, everybody raised their hand. Child does a million amazing things every day. Eventually, good job will lose its meaning. It's not recognizing what that individual thing that I did, but you sat on the toilet, right? Now, child does it for themselves, and they're not going to do it for Bernice to always do the happy dance after. So really thinking about rewards and punishments. And I often think that punishments are counterproductive, right? It just makes me hate the whole process anyways, even more. And often they're not like logical, right? We think about, I would recommend as much as possible, whether it's in toileting or anything else, to find natural and logical consequences. And I highlight the logical. I was someone, like I said, lovely family, but I got sent to my room a lot growing up. And I would end up in my room and be like, what am I doing here, right? Why am I here? And so because there was no logic to the action that I did to that. So thinking about, what makes sense and that it's not counterproductive. So consistency is incredibly important. And I would say consistency in the language that you're using, consistency in what the other adults, if you share home with other people, or if your child goes to school or wherever, that as much as possible, the routine that you're doing is what other people are doing too. Right? Because if this child is understanding this is the way this works, I always sit on the toilet when we do this thing. And I would say setting expectations too. Like you always want to make sure, and this is always a personal thing to everybody's own family, that everybody that's caring for your child or the children in your home kind of have the same expectations for what this toileting process looks like, right? And that you're using the same language and all of that. Because inconsistency can really confuse the child. And I think and prolong the process. And something that I want to highlight on this slide too, and this is often a challenging thing, is that it can be very confusing for a child to understand why here I wear underwear, but here I wear a diaper, and it's okay to go in to release my urine at this point in my diaper, but here I have to hold it. Right? That level of reasoning, child is super concrete thinker right now. So we want it to, as much as possible, be as consistent as possible, right? When we pee, we sit on the toilet. Once you've transitioned outside of diapers, I'm sure the question will come up later in question and answer for nap, and we'll go into that. But I would say that as much as possible, set your environment up for success, put down the pads or whatever it is in your home where you're okay with child being in underwear when you make that change, because it'll be very hard. It'll be inconsistent. They won't grasp, right? I can wear underwear when I'm here, but not when I'm here. And it's confusing. And then we're almost to the end to question and answer. So I just want to show this last slide about the stages of toilet awareness. So I mentioned kind of the entire process, also for the child, recognizing everything that goes into it, but also for us, for thinking about, wow, they found success with pulling up their pants independently and kind of finding those bright spots. I think it's also very special to observe your own child or multiple children, your grandchild, whomever, and see where they are in the process, right? If we step back and reflect, you might have child in the beginning who is totally unaware, right? It's like unaware connection, not at all. And then slowly they're starting to sit on the toilet. They might still be going in their pants later in their diaper, but they are sitting on the toilet. Now child sits when they're invited, and perhaps they release sometimes on the toilet. You can see at that point, there has been the click, the change, that the toilet is for the releasing of these functions from my body, right? And then you'll see child start to initiate themselves. So I often think of it as like child is going, they have no awareness, they keep playing, they keep running outside, wherever. Child starts to tell you, I have to go to the bathroom. They might not make it, but they came to you to tell you. And then you might see, you will get to the point, and this will be so exciting when you get there, and just really special to see what a child is capable of independently, when they stop whatever they're playing with or working with, go to use the toilet and wash their hands, and then come back totally without you. That is the coolest thing, and you will reach that point. I know that you all will, and that your children will, and that's very, very exciting, and that's this self-awareness. A couple of common questions, and I'm sure when we have time for questions, which is exciting, and there'll be other common questions, is should my child clean up their own mess? I'm always like medium about this, right? I love child to be a part of the process, but in the sense where we want to make sure that it's not punitive, right? It's a punishment, and you'll want to make sure that it's like still hygienic and clean and appropriate, right? So find that balance. This will look different in everybody's individual situation. I think child can be a part of the process in that there's urine on the floor, you can go get the paper towels, right? Or you can go get the cloth that we use, or whatever it is. I think that that would be great, but really thinking about, do I want them part of the process for this in this specific situation? Is it going to be punitive, and will it be unsanitary? And if that's the case, then I don't think it's worth it to keep them as, in that cleanup process. How long does the process take? It's different. I think nobody likes me when I say that. For every child, it's going to be different, right? You might see, and it's so hard to not compare ourselves and our child to things that we see with our neighbor or on Instagram or wherever. But so just recognizing, that's why I think when you walk away from this, that you recognize the different steps in the process, right? Because your child might just be at a different step in the process to that level of independence. I would say with as much consistency and routine, your child will find success much more quickly. So try as much as possible to be consistent and routine. You might even have your child who has mastered toileting, right? Does it super independently, and then you move, or you have another child, or something happens. And I hate the word regression because it just feels so negative, but there's just a change in the behavior. But I would say, right, we're, as humans, we go through these changes, and trust that your child has that strong foundation that you've already introduced, where they'll be able to just adapt through it later and get back to where they were. So it will be different for everyone. And kind of, is the child doing this on purpose? Like, is my child doing this kind of on purpose or for fun? And I think that a little bit of both, right? Because it's fun to use the toilet and find this level of independence independently, right? So yes, I would say that a lot of children enjoy using the toilet because they get to do so much. There's so many opportunities for independence in that toileting process. So let me stop sharing so I can see everybody's face. Wow, there's still so many people here. Thank you all so much for staying through all of those slides. So many questions. Elizabeth, if it's moving a little bit fast, if you don't mind reading out some, that would be great.
It has been a little fast. I think one of the overall dominating questions is it gender specific in how they go potty? Is there differences that you recommend, or is it the same process regardless of gender?
Yeah, a great question. I think definitely common question. I would start sitting down, right? I think sitting down, everyone starts sitting down, I think is the more natural, and just kind of how we sit and we understand our body. You usually see, and again, every child's different. So every child will do this at their own pace. Sometimes, right, you'll see the boy, maybe later he'll have observed other boys or a male figure in his life or whomever stand, and they're interested in standing and they can stand. I would say that for boys, right, with the penis and the aim, it can be challenging in the beginning to work on, I have so much I need to focus on when I'm standing up, right? Getting it into the toilet, also standing, also controlling my body and being self-aware. And so sitting is quite helpful. But also to be aware that many times children sit and the urine does go outside of the toilet. And that's just going to be a part of the process. Every child is built differently. It's part of the process for your unique child and kind of what you'll find in that sense. But yeah, I would start sitting.
Thanks, Bernice. Another common one has been, what do you do if there are a lot of accidents, whether it's, do you go back to diapers, or even if the child is getting frustrated? What is the thoughts there?
Yeah, I am so hesitant to say go back to diapers. And I give this example because so often frustration comes, sometimes we're putting so much pressure on the process. So my biggest thing is, one, take some of the pressure off, right? Child goes, they go, but it's a learning opportunity. Just be as consistent as you can, right? Take off and giving ourselves grace. We're human and we have emotions, right? And that's okay. But kind of taking some of the pressure off, right? If they say no, then it's no. And that's okay. And we move on and then they go. I often find that if we go back to diapers, I know that I can get you to let me go back to the diaper. I know that I can reach that point, right? And we see that with, the best example is the cookie jar. If I throw myself on the ground and have a tantrum, and I know you'll eventually give me that cookie, I'm definitely going to throw myself on the ground every night and have a tantrum to get that cookie, right? So I would say that once you do make the switch, as much as possible. Now, that being said, there are plenty of people who see a pediatrician and doctor says something else, and I would, of course, follow what medical advice is. There's something else. Often there's something else going on with child. Maybe that's it. And so definitely listen to your pediatrician in that, for that, anything that's more specific.
Bernice?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Just one more thing that I was going to say, and then we'll open up for questions. There was a couple of nighttime and nap time questions, and then for children that refuse to go poo, and if there's any suggestions there. I know Irene's had her hand up, and then a couple of others. So I just wanted to get those out there, and then I'll let you take it.
I'll do those two. And then Elizabeth, if you wouldn't mind just moderating the next people, that I think that might be helpful to have, because now we'll all go off mute at the same time. So nap time and nighttime. Okay. So I'm going to think about nighttime as another beast itself. So I will share with you, in my experience working with many different families, what has worked for them, different things, and you're going to figure out what works best for your family. I personally, in my classroom, we never changed into diapers for nap. We wear diapers now. I think it often, now again, it might not work for your unique family with your schedule, and it's like you pick your battles. I think it's very important to pick your battles and think about, is this causing my family and like our sense of and our energy more harm than good? And if it is, change it. Right? But if it's not, then I would recommend not changing into diapers for nap time, because I'm establishing that concrete understanding of, I wear a diaper and I pee in my pants, right? I pee in my diaper during nap. Now, that being said, for nap, when children are waking up, and nighttime, when we wake up from nap, that's typically, so in the time, right, I think about like when my alarm goes off and I'm still like, am I awake? Am I not awake? And that kind of blurry moment of waking up and becoming conscious, that's typically when child releases. So you know your child best, you know their signs of getting ready to wake up. At that point, I would just try to be there as much as possible for, okay, let's go to the toilet. And also, if you notice your child waking up dry from nap, take them out of the diapers. They are ready, right? They are ready. They're holding it. It's definitely, part of like the more, I know it sounds odd, but the more kind of moments, I don't even want to say accidents, I'll say incidents of wetness, right, that weren't success on the toilet, are opportunities for learning, right? Because if I don't ever know what happens in that situation, how do I know what to do when that situation happens? Now, what I would say too for nighttime, again, going back to that idea of, is this going to cause more harm than good for your family's energy to tackle all of it at once? If you feel like it is, do what's best for your family. If you feel like we are ready to go, I personally think, let's go, right? Let's do this if y'all are ready. So a couple of kind of tips and tricks. Two, if you notice your child is waking up dry, even just for like 3 nights in a row or 3 nights out of a week, they are ready to not be in that diaper at nighttime. Some families like to put child to sleep. Maybe they have dinner, finish their nighttime routine, and then they wake child up and go to the bathroom. I'm hesitant, do what works best for your family. Sometimes it's very hard to get child to sleep, right? And we wake them up and they think it's playtime and now we've disrupted their sleep. And something like that. So use your best judgment for your unique child. What I would say is that in the middle of the night, it's very helpful to have two kind of mattress, like a simple mattress pad already made, already like dressed with sheets. So you get in there, your child woke up, there's crying, we're all sleeping, it's dark. We are just taking that top mattress pad off. The next one is done. We have a change of clothes ready to go, and we're back in bed quite quickly. I really think that that's helpful. I would definitely try to limit lots of liquids before bed because, of course, they have a full bladder, they're going to release. So yeah, it's a bit personal, but yes. And then for the bowel movement, quickly, Elizabeth, before we do the popcorning, I would say that it's very common, not super common, medium, 50% common, I don't know. Lots of children hold their bowel movement. And a lot of things that we do as humans is we control, whether we're a young child or not, we control what we can when things are changing around us, right? So one, it could be that they're just doing that. Two, there's so much pressure. We've created an environment where we're so pressured. You need to use the toilet. You need to use the toilet. I know you need to poo. I know you need to poo. And I'm feeling anxiety. I'm holding it, right? Every child's going to go through something different. Sometimes there's this fear of the big toilet too. The sound and the swirliness can be intimidating, and that kind of is something. So it could be a couple of those. I always recommend for everything with a young child is taking a step back, even taking notes. Observation is so important in Montessori, and observing like what is the context and what is the catalyst, right? What is the context? When is my child always doing this behavior, always holding their bowel movement, always having this tantrum, whatever it is? And what is the catalyst? What is that domino that just makes it all go that way? And that often helps me to find patterns and be able to change the response to it. Elizabeth, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so we have 3 families right here that have their hands up. I think we're gonna take those 3 questions and, because we are at time, and then I've asked everyone else to put their questions in the notes, and we will, work on emailing them back with their specific questions. So, we have Shefali, Emily, and Shannon that are our next 3.
Oh, Shefali, go ahead.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi. My name. Sorry, I'm hearing some sound.
Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so we have a 1-year-old. She actually, wow, no, she's a year and a month now. And she has an older brother. So she is very like strong-willed. So she has been basically trying to break into the toilet and like touch everything and be very like curious and like showed a lot of interest. So, and we didn't know what to do. We like with our older child, we kind of missed a lot of signs. Now we're trying to do it better with the second. So my big question is, I loved this. This is really amazing. What I'm unclear on is like what the ordering is. So right now she is diapered lying down, sometimes standing up, depending on, she just hates being contained. Like it has to be, she wants to be moving all the time. So I understand like switching to stand-up diapering is like first step, and having a place that you're doing it every time. But like then, so then the next step is like you sit on the toilet each time, or like what is the actual, like how do I know what the next is?
Great question. So we're moving to stand-up diapering, and I think when you make the move to stand-up diapering, already have the potty, already like the small toilet. When I say potty, I'm referring to that small,
yeah, we have those.
Baby Bajorn one. Yeah. So it's the association, right? I remove the diaper, I sit on the toilet. I have the opportunity to release. So I would start that as soon as you can. And then when you're ready, right, and you've seen those signs of readiness and everything we discussed, I might recommend moving to that, like that underwear, the Gerber underwear, or anything else, right? Anything that works for you. But I like that one to start with. And then you're in underwear. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Is there like an age or a time? Like, is there a, like, this is too soon to move to underwear?
I'm not going to say an age, because I have seen wonderful, lovely, lovely young children start to use the toilet independently. And I've seen wonderful at a young age and wonderful, lovely, lovely young children start to use it a bit older. But I would say that when child can stand independently, like physically, we have sphincter muscles, like these opening and closing muscles around our bodies. And at that point, our sphincter muscle that opens and closes for releasing urine is myelinated, is fully formed. So we just need to almost like learn that I feel something and I can control that. So I would say that if child can stand independently, that's like that physical sign is there. Now it is helpful to also see those psychological signs of readiness, which we kind of which you can see in action with like going behind a door or telling you. I think the earlier the better, but I because I often think that we can set that. I would say that earlier to start the stand-up diaper changing and introducing the potty. I would say if you can.
Awesome, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This was great.
Can I ask a quick? I have a question.
Rose, I think that Emily Siligon was next, if that's okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Emily, go ahead.
Hi, Bernice.
Hey.
I think we had talked to you briefly before. We have a very strong-willed, almost two-year-old now, and he is potty trained fully at school. He barely has any accidents, but at home, he absolutely refuses. He will, even if we give him two options, he'll just plead the third and say no. So about 2 months ago, we just gave up because on the potty training at home and just put him back in diapers because it was too stressful for everyone. But so now he's 5 days a week in underwear at school, and then at home he's back in a diaper, and I just don't know how to start again because he won't go to the bathroom.
He won't poo in the toilet. He'll pee occasionally if I ask, but the pooing is definitely off limits. Like he will not. Yeah. If he wants to go in a corner and he wants to squat in a corner somewhere.
Well, I think like all things, it's gonna have its frustrations. I think I would just throw the diapers away, because if your child is toilet independent at school, we know they're capable of it. Right? That's a sign they're ready. Now, this does, of course, mean they might not without its frustrations at home. I will be transparent in that I'm sure there will be some butted heads or challenges. But I think that if he knows that he has that ability, if your child has that ability to get the diaper, it is easier if someone I don't have to stop my playing to be able, or my work to be able to just go in my pants, right? And if I know that, like, so, it's the same thing kind of, you see this often and everybody has this in different situations. Perhaps it's like a bottle or a pacifier or anything else that I know that I can just have, right? And we're trying to wean off of, but if it's still available, then it becomes very hard to not like make the recognition it's not available anymore. So I would encourage you, especially because you recognize how much success is having in the classroom environment, to just take on that challenge at home. I think your child is totally capable of it. And no pressure. This is just what it is, and just kind of going with grace. And then of course you have each other as a support network in the hard times. But kind of implementing that routine too, as much as possible. If child says no, but try to avoid those yes or no questions, make it part of the routine, figure out at school what they're doing to get your child to use to get into the toilet so successfully, and try to mirror that at home.
Okay.
Yes, nice to see y'all again. Let's see. And then Shayhan, I think you're the last one.
Yeah. And I was just going to say really quickly, I know many of you have questions. We will get back to you. So if you want to put your questions in the chat, Bernice and I will decipher through those and get back to you in the coming days, so you don't feel like you didn't get your question answered.
Hi there, this is actually Shahan's wife. Our daughter is 3 years and 2 months, and I'm worried that we missed the boat a little bit on when she was ready. There's lots of reasons, but mainly I think she might have been ready at the start of COVID, and we were sort of trying to get used to working from home and having her at home and everybody being at home. And I think we might have missed the boat for when she was ready. And recently we have been trying. We got a new seat for our toilet so she can sit on it. We got her underwear. We've been talking about it. We have books on it. But she is really scared. every time we say, okay, do you want to try going and just trying to sit on the toilet? She keeps saying, oh, no, next time. Or like she's got a lot of reasons why she doesn't want to do it this time, and it's not happened at all. Do you have any advice as to what we can say to her to convince her to just try?
Yeah, well, I would definitely avoid the yes or no questions, right? Because there'll always be an excuse. And one, I don't think you missed any opportunity. It's never too late with any child to do something. So hope that you feel just that it makes you feel a bit better. But I would also say is that, you know, like I said, we have to have those like wet incidents, accidents, whatever you want to call it, to know what happens when I have that. So when I pee on myself, what is your boundary? Every family has a different boundary. So you're not, maybe not have the fight to have to go change, but my boundary is you can't sit on a chair or on a carpet in the home, right? Because it's for a sanitary issue. Whatever your boundary is, every family makes their own boundary. And so that's eventually child like wants to sit. And so we sit, we have to go to there, and they get so, it's like, what are those consequences and the boundaries I would think about? And then I would just make the switch. It's again, it kind of reminds me of Emily. I feel as though it's so, children are so smart, right? They're so aware. And so if I know that I can say all these things and I don't have to do this, then I'm gonna do it, right? I'm gonna do it. And so it's finding those moments where your child can be a part of the process for them, right? There might be something specific in the process that speaks to your own child. I think it's being very clear about what the boundaries are. Okay, if you don't go, if I don't go and then I get to go back to my favorite show or my favorite game or whatever it is, then I'm definitely not going to go, right? Sure. So what is the boundary? Really thinking about like the context and the catalyst to each situation and observing.
Do you think then that the best way to start would be, if she doesn't want to go into the bathroom or resists that, the best way would be to sort of get excited about, okay, now we're going to stop wearing diapers and we're going to wear underwear instead, and then start that, and then she'll have the discomfort of.
Yeah, I would definitely take the diapers out if you can. Okay. I don't like diapers. I would go home or go to your bathroom and get rid of them. And okay. I know why we have them, right? I get it, right? We need them because of all the reasons why diapers are sold and we buy them. But as much, I think at this time when we know child can do it, mm-hmm. right? Let's get rid of those diapers.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Bernice. This was just absolutely wonderful. I'm so excited for all the people that we had join us tonight. And we did hit max capacity at 300, which wow. I didn't even know that my Zoom was capped at 300, but now we know. So I have a feeling we'll probably offer some more of these in the future. They were obviously very popular and something that we can give back to our families with. We have the chat and we have all of your wonderful information. I'll just put it out there one last time. If you just had like iPhone in your name, we can't recognize who you are. And so it will be hard for us to go back and look it up and send you the information. So if you could drop your full name or your email address so that we can identify you, that will be very, very helpful so that we can send you out this recording as well as the PDF that Bernice has that we didn't even get a chance to share in here because there was just so many great questions. So we will email everything out to you. And then for those of you that are thinking about attending a guidepost, we have many ways for you to get a hold of us to talk more about a guidepost school, or if you're a current family, please take advantage of working with your guide on this because your guides are trained by our wonderful Bernice here. And so they have this same information and are fully able to work with you as parents on making this a very cohesive environment from school to home and back again. And so that's one of the beauties of Guidepost is that we're able to work and really make this a Montessori approach at home and at school. So thank you again for joining us. And we will be in touch about our next event. Again, there will be events for schools coming up in March. And then in April, we're going to do another parent event on just Montessori in general, Montessori 101, and how you can take advantage of the Montessori approach at home. So more information to come for all of our wonderful parents out there. So have a wonderful evening. Stay warm and dry if you're in in places where it's very cold and icy and not usually cold and icy. And we appreciate you joining us tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernice. Absolutely wonderful. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Thank you.